All right, it's another Wednesday afternoon, and you know at this time we'll bring you another side of the news. So anything that is worthy of news is something we'll talk about on Flipside and give it more attention and proper discussions on it. 2 weeks back, we had this report of a child that was abused on the news, and it was really disheartening. And we want to refresh our minds on that report before we start talking, because today we're focusing on child abuse and maltreatment in Nigeria. Last year, we also did a report of an abused child as well, where the mom of that child was pregnant. The stepdad used hot cutlass to beat the child and gave him marks saying when he gets old, he would remember not to steal. So these are reports that keep coming up, but we're just quickly going to push play to that report to refresh our minds. This one just happened 2 weeks back before we even get into our discussion proper for today. By the way, I'm Daisy Leo Asikidi, your host.
Mr. John Isioma, who allegedly inflicted injuries on his stepdaughter. From information made available, the victim was said to be hungry and went to one of their neighbor's apartments where she met a dish of food which she ate. The stepfather, who got wind of the little girl, pounced on her and inflicted injuries on her body. Younger brother to Goodness John narrated what his father did to his stepsister.
Okay, who beat your sister?
Mama, daddy.
Eh?
Mama, daddy.
Your daddy?
Yes.
Now beat her like this. Who beat you?
Mama, daddy.
Now your daddy beat you like this.
When the news crew visited the house where the minor resides, it was learned that officials of the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Issues came to take the victim and her mother to the ministry while the home was deserted. Some neighbors who volunteer comment condemned the action of the stepfather.
See how stay bitter pikin because you know not being born now. So it good as go and take on rescue the pikin. Good way.
The last one we did just about 2 weeks ago. My surprise this morning. They say again, this man want kill her.
Reacting to the incident, Edo State Commissioner for Social Development and Gender Issues, Christabel Omo, said she received a distress call from a colleague informing her of the little girl whose stepfather has been assaulting, and immediately swung into action in company with her staff to get the child and her mother, including the little brother. According to the commissioner, the victim has been placed on medical examination and treatment. The commissioner said the matter has been reported to the police.
It's disheartening that a father can do this to a child. So currently the child is in our care, and after the medical examination, possible treatment, we will put that child in a home, because it's from what we have gathered, it's obvious that that family cannot cater for these two children, because the abuse is not just once, it's something that have persisted over the time.
The commissioner warned those who form the habit of violating women, children, and engage in domestic violence as anyone caught will be dealt with in accordance with the law. The State Police Public Relations Officer, SP Chidi Uwambuzo, said the case is yet to be reported at the command.
Patience Osaugiwa, ITV News.
Okay. Now, welcome to Flipside, the other side of the news. Today, we'll focus on a critical and urgent issue that affects the most vulnerable members of our society, children. We're talking about child abuse and maltreatment in Nigeria, and we're focusing on a lawyer's perspective. Next week, we'll talk about a psychiatrist or a psychologist's perspective on the show. Child abuse and maltreatment are deeply distressing and unjust, forever changing the lives of innocent children. It is essential that will shed light on this dark corner of our society to foster understanding, raise awareness, and work towards creating a safer environment for our children. Unfortunately, child abuse and maltreatment in Nigeria persist as significant challenges demanding immediate attention and decisive action. Well, today we're going to navigate through this sensitive and troubling topic. We aim to examine the current state of affairs. We aim to explore legal protections available, and also uncover potential avenues for support and justice. Well, we are honored to have Barrister Chinyere Ofebo with me in the studio and Barrister Jonathan Ainerua with us. They are legal experts who have deep knowledge and extensive experience in handling cases related to child abuse and maltreatment. So with their expertise, we hope to gain valuable insights into the legal aspects surrounding this issue. and the potential measures that can be taken to raise awareness, prosecute perpetrators, and ultimately protect our children through open and honest conversations like the one we embark on today. Let's quickly meet our guests. This is Barrister Jonathan Ainerua.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
He was a former secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association, and he is a child rights lawyer as well. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I have Barrister Chinyere Ofebo here, very punctual. When she came all the way to Igbo Saturday, she was like, this place is far. With the cost of petrol, I really do appreciate my guest for making out time. She's also a child rights lawyer, and she's one of those people that, you know, the FIBA, International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, that's, if you check the translation, it doesn't tally, because I think it's a French word that he coined. Yeah. They're very dear to my heart, because these are people that take cases pro bono. They're always they're the voice of women and children. And she's also a member of FIDA. Good to have you on our show today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers.
Such a delight.
Great to be here.
All right, now, I think I'll start with you, Barrister Jonathan, because you're closest to me. But at the moment, can you provide an overview of the current state of child abuse in Nigeria, child abuse and maltreatment, an overview of how it is? Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? What's going on?
Well, thank you so much. I think that without actually trying to play to the gallery, the situation is horrific. It's becoming a thing that is increasingly worrisome. It portrays how much some people, they are getting very many now, how much thoroughly wicked they are. Now, every now and then, I wanted to say on daily basis, it's even on every minute, you see a lot of things happening, a lot of despicable things happening to children. Even children whose parents are supposed to really take care of, whose parents have responsibility in law to take care of, they treat them as if they are mere chattels, things, properties that you can use and discard with, that you can, you can't even create a child. The law, as it were, has actually given you a responsibility to take care of your child. It is not a favor, because these children do not beg you to come to earth. You said you would do it, and there are laws that guide you when you are doing all those things, when you are taking care of the children. Now, I have seen children, underage children, being used as caregivers. I have seen underage children who are forced into prostitution.
So that caregiver is too big a word, like house girls and house boys.
House girls and
servants.
house boys. Then, thank you so much, I have seen children on a daily basis who are even being molested by uncles, aunties, and by even some insane parents. I use the word insane because I do not see a reason why a father or the father of a child will molest a child. I don't see the reason. I don't see the reason why an uncle, somebody in whom the child has really placed confidence, will molest that child. I don't see any reason why a child will be made to actually go around hawking or doing menial jobs that ought not to be. The reasons for all these are immaterial, because they are immaterial because the law will not permit you and does not permit you to do that. The list is endless. If you check your social media, you discover that there are a lot of problems, a lot of heinous things that are happening to the child. And your neighborhood, in your neighborhood, you equally see a lot of things happening to the child. And I say these are not acceptable.
At all.
They are not acceptable at all.
Okay. Sometimes I feel maybe this thing persists because there are no laws, or the laws are not implemented. They say we know how to create laws, but we don't know how to effect these laws. But are there specific laws and regulations in Nigeria? I'm directing this question to you now, Barrister Chinyere, that protect children from abuse and maltreatment?
Thank you very much. Well, it is good to state this at this point, that there are a lot of laws. But the fundamental right now is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has made it clear in Chapter 4, Sections 33 down to 42, on the rights of a citizen of Nigeria, children inclusive. We have right to life, freedom of movement, and all of that. Now we have the Child Rights Act, which has been, let's say, adopted by various states in Nigeria. Edo State, for instance, we have the Child Right Law of Edo State. We have what is called the VAP, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. We also have the ACJL, Administration of Criminal Justice Law of Edo State.
A lot of laws.
A lot of laws, like I said earlier. So the issue about implementation is there. Although I have some issues with the laws, as it were, because when we look at these laws, implementing them, like you said, is a major concern, because if you look at the punishment prescribed for violators of laws, you see that they are at par with the crime committed. For instance, take a look at the child rights law, for instance, the issue against child abuse. You see in sections 23, if I'm not mistaken, where there's a prohibition on child labor, right? If you go further to section 3 and 4, you see the punishment, and sometimes it makes me laugh, because when you see the punishment, like a fine of 50,000 naira.
What?
Or 5 years imprisonment. And then for body corporates, after, there's something called lifting the veil of incorporation, where you expose the real perpetrators of that act in the company. You know, when that is disclosed, guess what the fine is? 250,000 naira. And the amusing part is, there is nothing stated in the law as to would this company or body corporate still be in existence? Yeah. It makes me wonder. So after paying the fine of 250,000 naira, which is bizarre, if you ask me,
go back.
The company still exists? That's insane. You have destroyed the lives of children, the lives of generation, because the child is the future of the society. After doing that, then you ask a body corporate to pay 250,000 naira fine. So these are the issues.
Okay. But if these laws are going to be worked on and changed, it must be a bill that will be sponsored, and then it goes through 1, 2, 5, 10 million readings and all that, right?
Yes.
But how many lawyers are even contesting for positions in the legislative arm of government? Are people not looking for I think, what are lawyers doing to push for their fellow lawyers to get very involved in politics?
Oh, okay, I'll answer that. Lawyers are in politics, that's the truth. And there's one very, very, would I say, a new and important key player to the politics now. We have the person of the past president of the NBA, the person of Olumide Akpata.
Okay.
He's it's coming up now, and we have given him our support to rally around him to see that he's successful.
Okay.
Thank
you
you.
know, there was something a clergyman talked about earlier and says, we're always looking for change. We keep saying Christians are maltreated. If Christians don't play politics, you won't find change.
That's true.
And it's where it hurts you the most that you're going to push these errors in these laws. I, as a journalist, might not know until maybe today. I know now. And if I become someone in the Senate without that knowledge, foreknowledge, I won't be bothered about that. Maybe I'll just be talking about how to get more money for women. Women are going through a lot and all that. So this is a good one. But Barrister Jonathan, let's move further. Can you explain the legal process the child abuse or maltreatment case typically goes through in Nigeria?
Well,
because I want to know.
Well, if you commit an offense, you ordinarily be apprehended or invited to answer for the crime you have allegedly committed. The police are an organ of government, agency of government, I mean to say, that is charged with the responsibility of doing this thing. And there are other agencies out there. For example, if you get to most police formation now, if you are the divisional police headquarters level, you see a unit. Most of those units are even headed by experienced police officers. When you report a case like that, they are trained, or they are supposedly trained, to do the needful. And if you report such a case, then of course they will handle it in accordance with the extant laws. But there are other agencies, for example, the Agency for the Prohibition of Human Trafficking, particularly if it involves women, FIDA, Federation of International Federation of Women Lawyers. We have a desk, or even more than one desk, at the Ministry of Justice level, where they take care of citizens' rights. Those units, they mostly look out for and watch out for those citizens who are not buoyant, so to say, who are, we call them indigent persons. And at the NBA level, Nigerian Bar Association level, we are encouraged and we are joined to take up pro bono cases. At the state level, you see more often than not, even the wife of the governor of the state, Betsy Obaseki, goes to court when there are heinous offenses against children. She goes to court and ensures that the cases are the perpetrators are prosecuted and justice is brought to bear. I can go on and on. The list is endless. There are even so many religious organizations that are doing it. Once a case is reported, they follow it up. Then it takes the normal prosecution procedure. There are procedural laws that pertains to prosecution under the administration of criminal justice laws. Then there are also procedures that will give the child adequate protection. Because if you are talking about a child, if an issue is pertaining to a child in court, there is privacy. The law guarantees privacy under the Child Rights Law of 2007. That law came in place. It was domesticated from the Child Rights Act. So you don't expose them. You don't take them to open court. Sometimes the judge or the trial magistrate will say, well, leave this court. Whoever that does not have anything directly with this child, that is the guardian or the parents, or the prosecutor or prosecutrix, as the case may be, should leave the court so that that child will not be unnecessarily exposed to fear, intimidation, and to public scrutiny. So that's how it operates. So an offense committed to a child is summary. It's like an offense committed against any other person. The only difference is that procedurally, there are ways you follow it up. So that's that.
Okay.
There are agencies, there are procedures.
We still have so many questions, and I want to know some of the challenges that these lawyers encounter when they take cases, feed out on their own, do pro bono cases. I want to know how important it is to have good representation in cases like this. And for a child that is less than 18, what happens when the parents of the children say, we don't want to push anymore? Who fights for the child? What can be done? Well, anyway, we have a video from the United Nations of survivors who were victims, some of physical violence, some of sexual abuse, and they just shared their stories and how they came out of it. So we're going to play that video for you. It will lead us to the news headline at 2. And when we come back from this break, we'll continue our discussion in the studio.
Where I remember I had an experience, and I was living on the street at the time, and I remember this one person that I'd met over a period of time, and somehow I built up some kind of trust with him, but it ended up working out backwards. I'm not going to be too graphic what was done to me, but all I know is he beat me pretty good, and he ended up raping me. I didn't tell anybody, didn't say anything, and I was taught to shut up, not say a thing.
At around 14, 15 years old, I went through sexual violence. It was kind of violence that included physical, emotional, and I was so vulnerable at that time.
6 months after my dad had gone, a stepfather came into my life. Things started to change from there. Sometimes it would be verbal abuse, and then sometimes it would be physical. It just became a daily occurrence.
At the age of 6 to 7 years, I was doing a lot of gymnastics. And I was standing on my hands, and then a help in the household touched the most intimate part of my body. And I thought everything was normal.
The job that was offered to me is actually a cyber sex den. Customers would come online to us and would instruct us what to do. And for every lascivious things that my customer would ask me to do and I refused to do it, they would starve you. Literally starve you until you obey them.
I couldn't talk, I couldn't say a word, nothing. You go to the deepness of being lost and not knowing where to are, and you come into a world of darkness. It was as if I was torn away.
I'd started to perpetrate violence myself, and over the years became a full-on perpetrator of domestic violence to partners over the years. And at that stage in my life, I didn't see that there was anything wrong with me, because it was just how a family works.
It was really, really hard for me to recover from that situation. It took me not just a year, 2 or 3, but it was a long thing for justice. Long years of waiting to see the, justice being served.
And even if you get justice, there's no reparation. So the perpetrator has been arrested. Then what? What after that? Once you've gone through sexual violence, you're a victim and you remain to be a victim.
Back in my day, this sort of stuff you just didn't talk about. And really, if a male talked about it, or even if a girl talked about it, actually when I think about it, it was most likely just shoved under the carpet. Even as a child, that was imposed on me from a very young age.
You know, I sat in a room there with a whole lot of men sitting in a circle, and they started having conversations about stuff that I'd never heard men talk about, and started to teach me and give me the skills and the tools that I should have got in my own home as a kid, as to what it was to be a man, a father and a partner.
If only my family were aware of this kind of evilness existing in the world, they could have like stopped this to happen.
Talking about this will help others come out that haven't talked about it. I waited almost 50 years before my conversation came about it.
Information about sexual violence should be given to children.
We're going to break the cycle.
Stop the harm, exactly.
Pay attention to your children. If nobody else will, well then I will. Just to get this going, to change, for change.
All right, we're talking about child abuse and maltreatment in Nigeria, and we're looking at the lawyer's perspective of this. How can we get redress? What are the challenges we face? What are the laws governing this process? And all the legal aspects we can cover. And so on the show with me today, I have Barrister Jonathan Ainerua. I also have Barrister Chinyere Ofebo with me in the studio, and they've been doing justice to the topic. So I think I'll start with you now, Barrister Jonathan. How important is it for a child to get proper representation in these cases of child maltreatment? Like, what should the family be looking out for to get a lawyer in? I know pro bono is good, but I don't know if you can get the best of lawyers for free. I'm just thinking. All right.
It's an individual thing.
Okay.
It's what we are trained to do. Personally, if I'm handling a matter, I handle it. I'm not only handling it because of the pecuniary benefit. That's the money I will get from it, or the gratification, whatever. I'll be handling it in the interest of justice. What justice will get at the end of the day. There's something I want to point out. In getting legal representation, the parents, guardian, or whoever that is in charge of that child plays a pivotal role. Because some of these parents who are supposed to be really pressing for justice, they may even have the money. They may not be indigent. So indigency is not a problem, it's not the issue. You see them even not wanting to come out for one reason or the other. So I'll tell you they want to avoid stigmatization. So I'll tell you they want to do that. But if you are ready, willing to defend the rights of the child, you come out. Apart from the criminal aspect of it, you can pick up a civil action, even simultaneously, once the matter is reported. In Edo State Judiciary, you have family courts. And there is a law that governs how that court operates. We call it a family court civil procedure rules. I think I'm going to claim it to Benin in 2017. I have some matters there. So you can go there and claim damages, just the same way you can claim damages for yourself. You can do it for and on behalf of your child.
Oh.
Yes, you can claim damages. There's no law that precludes you from not claiming damages. But what we are used to is report the matter, then we expect punitive measure by way of imprisonment, fine, or both. But if you want to actually go further, you can go further. So this child has been defied. Something like this has happened. Court, I want damages to the tune of so and so. If your case is properly proved, you have the proper witnesses, and the proper procedure is followed, you get damages. You get damages. Once you file it in court, the Chief Judge of Edo State and some other states that have similar laws, they know what to do. They will just assign it straight to that court. In that court, in most cases, you don't have one person sitting as a judge. You have assessors. About 2 persons sitting with the judge. These 2 persons are either retired civil servants. Some of them were judges before, like customary judges, magistrates, seasoned administrators, who are versed in children matters and family matters. They sit with the judge, and the judge adjudicates. And at the end of the day, there will be justice according to law.
You do know that in Nigeria, these cases of child abuse and maltreatment, the loudest ones on social media these days are the ones related to the poor. And it's always a poor family where the woman is married to another man and they're living in 1-bedroom apartment where she's fetching water with a bucket and all of that. A lot of rich abuses in rich homes are swept under the carpet, or they're very well guarded. Maybe they don't beat their children, they beat the children of the poor as well, and that's how they let out their rage. And so it's a bit dicey. But then again, what are some things you would suggest? You're a woman, so you might understand how emotional these cases get. What are some of the changes you would suggest we should see to ensure that cases like these are started and brought to a logical conclusion, so the perpetrators get the right punishment, the punishment that is due what they've done, the victims get reparations, everything is settled, and then their safety is also ensured? Because if it's the case of a poor man versus a rich man, there's also the whole intimidation, harassment thing coming up. So what changes would you suggest to ensure that these cases are dealt with to a logical conclusion?
Thank you very much, Stacey. This is a very, very important topic and very dear to me in particular. The issues that you have raised are actually true. I think that more awareness should be raised. I know a lot of non-governmental organizations have been doing a lot, but they should not back down. We all have a role to play as lawyers, as journalists, as teachers, you know. And then the issue of safety. Now, I can assure victims of abuse that their safety is guaranteed. All they need to do is to speak up. Now, speaking up has been made really easy. Taking Edo State as a case study, there is a center now known as Daisy, your name, Daisy Danjuma Center.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's in Adenia, close to vegetable markets. Now, that center is well equipped for cases like this, cases of abuse, child labor, sexual abuse, name it. There are doctors on ground. There are seasoned counselors on ground. You just need to walk in there, state your cases, investigations will be done, and shelters are actually provided for these victims. There are situations where the victim is seen that, oh, if we release this victim out to the society, society is not safe. The government takes care of these victims, takes care of their feeding, education, and while they are in those shelters, counselors are there to talk to them, you know, counsel them, so that when they eventually are released into the society, they are healed from the trauma faced from the abuse. Now, as a woman, I would use this opportunity to encourage my gender fellow women. You know, this issue about sweeping things under the carpet. You know, there are lots of cases of abuses happening with stepfathers on stepchildren. And then you ask this question, begging for answers. The woman, this mother of this child, what steps has she taken? Then you hear the mother saying, oh, I cannot leave this marriage, oh, there's nothing I can do, the child is a witch, and all of that. It is a very pitiable situation, you know. Women, we can do better. These children need to be taken care of, you know, because, like I said earlier, the children are the society. If you miss it with the child, you missed it.
Interesting. All right, and before we'll have our conclusive statements on today's discussion, you know, I think there's something I say a lot on radio, but maybe I need to start saying it on television as well. As a woman, I might be wrong, but this is what I believe. Check your income before you start popping babies. Don't have babies that your means cannot cater for. So if what you earn can only care for one child, auntie, born only one. If what you earn can take care of two, please have 2 children. Don't have 5 because you feel you're looking for a particular gender or because you're in competition with some other woman. So with or without a man's assistance, you'll be able to raise your children. If the marriage not let you do, you will come out, you will raise your children. Eventually the man passes of natural causes. Nobody prays to become a widow early, but it happens to some people. So what do you do then? You have to look for one husband urgently without looking. But if you have enough to take care of your kids, you take your time, you will heal from the hurt, you re-strategize, you plan, you take time, look before you marry again. That's what I think. I might be wrong, but please, born according to your pockets. All right? All right, so before we go, seriously, it's really sad when you see these poor women.
Yes.
The first marriage they're coming from, maybe they have 3 children. Now you're imposing that your 3 children on one man who's driving
take care of himself.
keke inside one apartment, and the man wants you to also have children for him. You now have maybe 2 more to make 5. By the time the abuse starts, you pack your 5 children, you go for the 3rd one. In 10 years, you have 10 children, 5 marriages. So it's really disgusting sometimes. All right, so before we go now, your last words on today's discussion on child abuse and maltreatment, your perspective, your counsel to governments, to social workers. Are they even thorough with their job? So you take the child from the parents because of the abuse they're faced with. The next family that will adopt these children, do you monitor? I've heard of men who would abuse an already abused, sexually abused victim in the name of, you don't already spoil. I've heard it before. So how thorough are their jobs? But I'm not, what are your words, final words?
I want to say that parents, guardians should be proactive, because you need to keep these children alive and healthy. But however, as a man, I want to also say that it is not only men that abuse I've seen situations, very many.
Yes.
That even women.
Some are worse,
in fact,
especially when they are not their children.
Some of them are very vicious.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Especially when they are not their children. Thank God you said so.
True.
They just, they will frustrate that child. If God does not come to the aid of that child, they will destroy that child. So I think it's a heresy, in quotes, for a woman simply because you are not the child, the biological mother of that child. You think you have right to destroy that child. So as you have widows, so you have widowers. So widowers even suffer more because they don't stay at home. They go out to fend for the family. So whatever now happens in the family, it's only what they are told. Sometimes those children are under threat to say, don't tell your dad, otherwise I will kill you.
Yeah.
But I know that the reported cases are more on the side of men than women. But I'm going to chip this one. That's so much.
Word. I totally agree, though. You see what they do to house girls and what women do. Dear God. Please, your final words.
Thank you very much. My colleague has said a lot of things now. I would add something here. I would say that it's not just the parents, it's not just the guardian, even you as the neighbor, co-tenants, you know, teachers, we all have roles to play. We have a ministry now called the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Issues in Edo States. And so far they've been doing a good job. You know, all you need to do is to call them. They have a helpline, which I have the permission of the director to
roll it out. Okay.
Maybe I will give it to you so you can read it out.
Okay. For
members of the public to please call the helpline whenever you observe anything fishy, anything out of place, anything out of the ordinary. Please save the life of a child and call. They will swing into action and do all they need to do. As parents, please create time for your children. You cannot be too busy for your child. And then the issue of sexual education starts as early as possible. In fact, for me, when the child starts learning how to say dada and mama, that's the best time to start teaching the child.
Yeah, don't touch my bum bum.
This is what is out of bounds. Nobody can touch this part of your body. Nobody can say this to you. You know, when you drop your child in crèche, those of us who are working mothers, drop your child in crèche, go to work, come back, make sure you are observant. Observe certain things. The child has not been eating as the child usually does. You should notice that there's something wrong. The child doesn't play, the child doesn't talk like he or she used to. You know that there's something wrong. Ask questions, you know, and all will be well, I believe so.
Okay, so I'll definitely need that number before we leave the studio, but that's how we're going to be wrapping up today's discussion. I promise you that next week we'll continue the part 2 of this discussion, because you might just be thinking about redress. You don't understand why you really need to deal with these perpetrators until you understand the amount of damage these children are exposed to. Maybe you won't understand why we had to do this first. So next week, we'll bring a child psychologist and a psychiatrist to the studio to talk about their own perspective of these, how we can also spot children that are being abused, because some abuses are not physical, though we're focusing on the physical one and maltreatment. But some of these abuses, they are so covered. The scars are covered with clothes that you won't even know, you won't see. And then by the time you do, but without seeing the scars, there are some other signs I'm sure these children will show that will let you know that all is not well. And when those signs are showing, you should do something about it. What can you do? is what the lawyers have come to tell us today. But what should we be looking out for is what we'll learn next week. So many things happening around us. It not concern me, I think they spoil. We used to live in a society where everybody was so together. They say it takes a village to raise a child. You see something, a child stealing from his or her mom's pot. You don't say, "Nah, mama pot." You go, you tell the mother and say, "I saw your child today, oh, observe." But now, everybody just goes, "I beg." Now they know, I get my own, let me focus. And that's how we've gotten to this level where we are today. What have you done? And women, you need to be more proactive. You need to be less attached to the Mrs. title. And you know the sad part? These women, most of the women, when you dig deep, that are so stuck on these, their second marriages or their weird husbands that, well, as we call them, they've not paid bride price for them. In our pidgin, we never put money for their head. They are just in the house reproducing babies. So we all need to do better. We need to do a lot more. And for mothers, people who claim to be mothers that are abusing other people's children just because they are your maids, your helpers, your house help. I heard it's illegal to have a child. In fact, I know it's illegal to have a child who is less than 18
It is.
in your house. During school hours, she's cleaning and doing chores. Ah, God, the day I will catch one, I'll be so happy to catch you. So if your kids can go to school, the other man's child you took, even if you're paying, should go to school. So if you know you want to pay for a help, look for the one that is above 18. If you're afraid your husband will molest the help, look for some other option. Get machines. Go and pay for a robot. Do something. And just pray about it so that you get a good helper. And try to marry a disciplined man. It will help all of us in the long run. Please, we have a number. We're hoping to display that number on the screen. But even if we do not get it displayed today, next week, because it's still a continuation, that number is going to be on the screen from start to finish. It's a helpline. So a child watching this program now, you're abused, and your mom is not saying nothing about it. Your daddy has kept mum and is mute. Call that number and call for help. The friend of that child that they told you, you're watching us right now, they told you in school that this was happening at home to them. Call the number. You're a neighbor watching this program. Please make use of that number as we put it on the screen next week. We beg you. Call for help. Scream out like, save a child. And you're not saving only a child, you're going to be saving a generation. Because if the child is broken, the child gets married with that broken mindset, wala go deal. Let's do our own and help society. I'm Daisy Leo Asikide. I want to say thank you to my lawyers today.
Thanks
it's
so much.
Such a delight.
You're doing very well.
All right, for those who missed out on any part of the show, please catch us up on YouTube and Facebook later today when we upload the full video, and just educate yourself and get knowledge. These offices that were mentioned that you can get help from, please make use of them. We don't just like to speak big grammar, we want to help. We'll be back again next week with a part 2 of this discussion, that's for sure. Have yourself a great day.